Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I talk about books and bookish things. And happy Halloween! Since it's October, we are doing spooky months. Halloween is my all-time favorite holiday. I'm wearing my witch's hat. Isn't she gorgeous? So today, since it's Halloween, a night of fright, chills, spills, and thrills, I thought I would share the scariest book I have read. So this is actually the two scariest books I read. One was the scariest book I read as a child. The second is the scariest book I've read as an adult. Let's get into it. Okay, so for the scariest book I read as a child, let me tell you something. When I was a kid, the scariest thing on the planet, before I discovered existential dread, which that's now my greatest fear, is something more existential, was vampires. I was terrified of vampires. I grew up in the era of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and I saw the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, and they just creeped me out. They icked me out, and it wasn't until Twilight came out, which I was much too old to still be afraid of vampires, that fear went away and was replaced with something much more existential. So, that being said, it comes as no surprise that the scariest book I read as a child, and I do mean child because I was in 6th grade, I wasn't even a teenager yet, I was a preteen, is Bram Stoker's Dracula. So this book absolutely terrified me because, the things I lived by as a kid was okay, crossing water, daylight, crosses, got it. Okay. And then I read this book, and at one point in the book, Dracula's walking around in Piccadilly Circus in the middle of the day. And I didn't realize that it was probably raining and cold and dreary because it's London. But the fact that he was out in the middle of the day just freaked me out. And then running water. Vampires can't cross running water. Well, they can if they're in their casket, in their coffin, with some of the dirt from their homelands. You just seal them up and float them down the river, and then they pop right out and get you. It was crosses. I wore that thing a lot. And yeah, I was absolutely terrified of this book. I wasn't a very strong reader. I wear glasses now. I needed them then. And so between my dyslexia and my poor vision, it took me a week to read this book. And I'm telling you, I barely slept for that whole week. I'm saying a business week, a school week, 5 school nights it took me to read this book. And it was so creepy. So creepy. If you haven't read Dracula, I do highly recommend it, all that being said. It's written as a series of letters and journal entries and newspaper clippings kind of feel. It's very unique style of writing. I absolutely love it. I have reread it several times since I was a kid, and I'm happy to say it no longer gives me nightmares. That being said, the book that gave me nightmares as an adult, probably not surprising if you've been paying attention. Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I thought I was over my fear of vampires. I thought, I had watched Buffy, I'd watched Twilight, I'd watched all of these, vampire things. And it's okay, Interview with the Vampire. Vampires aren't scary anymore. Not to me, at least. Vampires are cool. And then I read Salem's Lot when I was... How old was I? 20? I think I was 20 when I read Salem's Lot. And I read it in 2 days. For a Stephen King book, it's not that thick. There's thicker ones. I read it in 2 days. I had my glasses. I've gotten much better at reading. And I had a break in my classes where I had 2 days off, so I just read this book. And I read it all at once because I could not sleep. So I just kept reading it. And that made it worse. So, Salem's Lot takes place in Jerusalem's Lot. That's where Salem, that's why it has the little apostrophe here. It's got a little apostrophe. This book. So Jerusalem's Lot is your sleepy main town. It's a small town. Nothing exciting ever happens. And then this mysterious gentleman moves to town. Oh, and he's a vampire. And he starts making minions. And he starts eating people. And nobody's safe. Even the priest in town, the Catholic priest, he's like, I have my faith in God. I have my faith in God. I have my cross. And his faith falters for 1 second. And it doesn't work anymore. And the vampire doesn't eat him. Doesn't turn him into a minion. Instead, he gives him essentially the mark of Cain. And everyone will know that your faith withered. And he flees. And it's just, oh my goodness. Like, this book scared me, not because of the vampires, but because of the commentary on belief systems, or what I feel is the commentary on belief systems, that you have to believe in something, and you have to believe in it with your whole heart, or it doesn't work. Believe in what you want to believe. I'm not here to judge, but you have to believe in something. You have to stand for something. You have to have something at your core, some guiding principle or mythology or something, whatever it may be, even if it's be the good you want to see in the world. You have to have something at your core, because if you don't, what'll happen? This book terrified me in much more of an existential kind of a way. Yeah, it's vampires, and vampires are scary. But this book has an existentialness to it, an existentiality, I guess, to it that is just, it's good. Spine-tinklingly good. I highly recommend Salem's Lot. Have you read any Stephen King? Have you read any vampire novels? I would love to hear what your biggest fear as a kid was. Was it the dark? Because I read something the other day that I thought was very profound, that you're not scared of being alone in the dark. You're scared of being not alone in the dark. I'd love to hear your Halloween plans, your Halloween reads. Let me know in the comments down below, and have a spooky time. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.